Hey Las Vegas, welcome to Realty Check Las Vegas, your local real estate news show telling you what's really happening here in Las Vegas in the real estate market from professionals. This week, though, we are doing our community spotlight where we talk about people that are living in the Las Vegas community, small businesses that are locally owned and operated, and what's going on here, because not only real estate is also a lot about the community, so we don't always want to talk just real estate. We want to get to know the community here in Las Vegas as well. So it's going to be a great show. If you are watching our show, please take a moment, like, comment, share, tell your friends about us, keep on following. We're always, talking, reporting what's happening over here, and we are happy to see you guys tuning in every week. We come on every Thursday at 9:30 a.m. Today, we have our guest, Christin G Gutierrez, and she's with clinical hypnotherapy, or she's a clinical hypnotherapist. She's with a company called PhysiSHIFT. It's her company, and she's a coach, a hypnotherapist, and she has she's a plant-based chef, and she has just a lot of great things to talk about. I'm gonna let you introduce this. There's so many things we were talking just before the show. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so several years ago, I was actually dying from lupus. My organs were shutting down. I have 6 kids, and their father has already passed away. So I was sitting in my room one day, and I'm calculating my life insurance, and it's just not enough. I couldn't even afford to die. And my youngest daughter is handicapped, and I had to ask my fiance if he would actually take care of her for the rest of his life. And that was a conversation that I never thought that I would have to have. Yet there I was. I had just had that conversation, and I'm crying at my desk, trying to cry as quietly as I could so I didn't wake them up, because honestly, it's never the right time to tell your kids are dying.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there, and my organs are shutting down, and I know that I have less than a year to live. And my neurologist had just told me that day she also thought that I had MS. And I hadn't told my fiance, who's my husband now, because, let's face it, it was already bad enough. It was already horrible to know that he was going to lose me to lupus. He didn't need to know that the reason why it was hard for me to walk was because I might have MS too. And all of a sudden, so we had this joke, because he always used to listen to these whole food, plant-based and vegan documentaries. He loves documentaries.
Wow.
And he always said he was a vegan, but he wasn't.
Right.
So I would joke that we were going to get him some trans vegan shirts made, because he identified as a vegan, he just didn't practice it. And
I love that.
Yeah. So it used to annoy me. I was the biggest meat eater that you've ever met, so I didn't want to hear anything about that. So he'd always watch these shows, and it was annoying because he never really practiced it, but he wanted to. And that night, he put on a documentary, and for some reason, I just started listening out at the corner of my ear. And it was a documentary on a whole food, plant-based diet and MS. And he didn't know what my doctor had said that morning. And it piqued my attention.
Wow.
And I just started listening. And I had tried everything. I'd tried all the medicines, and they'd all failed. I'd done everything that I could to live for my kids, but I hadn't tried that. So I decided that even though I really didn't think that it was going to work, I had to give it my all, just so that I could say that I tried everything.
Right.
And I went crazy cold turkey. I didn't wean off the meat. I didn't say, okay, let's scale this back a little bit. I was like, no, I'm doing this. I was supposed to go to start chemo. My doctor was like, this is a last ditch effort. Let's start chemo. And in my spirit, I just knew that I couldn't do it. I knew I was going to die. And there's only been a couple times in my life that I knew just on the inside that something, was bad was going to happen. And it was that I could not force myself to go to the chemo, and I had rescheduled.
Chemo's a poison.
It is. It's a poison. And yeah. I just didn't feel right about it. I didn't know it. but COVID was just starting. And I believe that I was saved from that, because if I would have got on the chemo, I would have died if I got COVID. I'd almost died from the steroids and some of the other medications he put me on, which compromise your immune system. If I was on chemo and it killed my immune system, I was going to die. And the reality is that, yes, I was going to die from the lupus, but the chemo would have killed me much sooner, and I had to make that choice. So when I decided to go on the whole food plant-based lifestyle, I had to tell my doctor, hey, I'm not doing the chemo. And he's like, what? What do you mean? You know, we're trying to save your life here. And I'm like, I understand. I'm trying to save my life too. And it took some convincing. I'm very persuasive. And he agreed to give me a month of trying the whole food plant-based lifestyle. And if it didn't make a significant improvement in my life, I agreed that I would start the chemo. But I was going to give it my all. And I did. Now, I had a neck injury when I was 7 years old. I basically separated my skull from my spine, enough to do nerve damage, but not enough to paralyze me, and they never caught it. So I had lived for 33 years with a headache, with migraines and neck pain every second of my life. It was almost debilitating. I had to live in a constant state of pain, but I had to keep going for my kids.
Right.
I learned to ignore that, but I had that horrible pain. I had the crushing exhaustion. And within 3 weeks, it went from a level 10 pain and exhaustion down to about 3. And within 6 weeks, it was 100% gone, and it's never come back.
And that was just from changing your diet?
Just from changing my diet. I cut out all processed foods and sugars, and I went whole food plant-based, which basically, you know, I cut out all of the meat and started eating a lot of vegetables, fruits, grains, nuts, seeds, beans, and it saved my life. Wow. My doctors were blown away. They started asking me how they could go on this diet. One of my endocrinologists actually suffered from diabetes and a couple other issues, and he asked me, what does he need to do this? Because he saw such a radical transformation in my life.
That is amazing. When your doctor is asking you for advice.
Yeah.
How did this happen? Yeah, that's wonderful. So you're a plant-based chef.
I am.
Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so what I found was I was passionate about telling people that a whole food plant-based lifestyle can save lives. I just had this compassion for, of course, men, but also just, I saw this woman who's just sitting in her room, and she's just broken and sick, and she has no idea what to do.
Right.
And what happens is you start praying, please God, heal me. And after a while, you just lose hope.
Yeah.
And you just start to just accept it. And you start, instead of praying to get better, you start saying, please don't let me get any worse.
Right.
And when that happens, it's really sad, because
you give up.
You give up. Yeah. And I just had this picture in my mind of her just sitting there, and she's given up, and it broke my heart, because I knew what was possible, but I had to reach her, you know? And talking to people, you can be as passionate as you want about, oh yeah, this will work. But if you can't show somebody how they can do it so they don't feel like they're sacrificing, so that the food is still delicious and satisfying, then it's not very palatable and appealing to people. So I knew that I needed to go back to school and become a plant-based chef. And I did, and I created all these amazing meals, and everybody that tasted them were blown away. They couldn't believe it could be so good and not contain any animal products.
Right, because when I think healthy and vegan, I think like,
yeah, you know, like fried fries and fried food, and it's not necessarily healthy to be vegan. Whole food plant-based takes it one step more, and it's like, let's eat things that aren't processed. Let's eat things that are in their natural state. Mm-hmm. minimally processed. Of course, you can dice up your vegetables and you can saute them and things like that.
Okay.
But limiting the oil, limiting the added sugars, not eating foods food products that have more than 3 ingredients, especially if you can't even pronounce the names of those ingredients.
Right. I had someone years ago, and she was fighting cancer. That told me, she said she had started eating everything she ate was alive. She said because when you eat everything that's dead, you'll start dying inside, and it just seemed like that made so much sense.
It does, and I bought a dehydrator, and it's actually really interesting because you can cut up vegetables and you can marinate them and then put them in a dehydrator, and they actually taste and feel like they were sautéed on the stove, but they're completely, they're still alive. They don't have, they don't lose any of their nutrients from the cooking process.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So that was the beginning step. And then what I realized is that I can give you the delicious food. I can give you all of the recipes and I can tell you why, but if I don't address your mindset first, it's not going to be a sustainable lifestyle change. This isn't a diet. This is a lifestyle change for the rest of your life so that you can live the longest life possible.
Right.
And I started researching. I spent thousands of hours researching the healing powers of nutrition and how our mindset affects our physical bodies. And what I found was that there'll always be an excuse if we look for one.
Right.
I was done making excuses, and I went back to school and I became a master practitioner of NLP, timeline therapy, and hypnotherapy so that I could address the traumas, the root causes that have brought sickness and disease into our life, that have brought depression and anxiety and all of these things that manifest as lupus or diabetes or arthritis or any of these symptoms. And that was life-changing for me and for my clients.
It is so amazing what our minds can do to us.
Yeah, it is.
do to us.
It
And
is.
it is, you hear those stories and it's hard to believe when you're in the situation, someone gets a diagnosis and you hear these stories of people that had that diagnosis and overcame it.
Right.
Basically just with what they did with their mind and changing their mindset. And it's so hard when the doctors are saying, take this medication or go on this treatment or do this.
Yeah.
And that's the only hope you have, making that decision.
Yeah, I asked all of my doctors because I had this nagging suspicion that if I changed, this was before I researched anything, if I changed my diet, would it help? And they all told me no.
Yeah.
And it's not, I don't believe that it comes from a malicious place. I just think they don't know. In my research, I found out that less than 25% of doctors actually have a nutrition course in their program. They spend only a few hours learning about nutrition, and none of it is focused on the healing powers of nutrition. It's more like the nutritional breakdown and makeup of food. So they just don't know. That's why when my doctors heard about what was happening, they were like hungry for more information because this was like foreign to them.
I've rarely met a healthy doctor.
Yeah.
I mean, most doctors, you look at them, they're really not, like live healthy lifestyles themselves. So that
they're so busy.
Understandable.
When you're that busy, it's hard to be disciplined enough to, be consistent on a healthy lifestyle, especially when you just don't know what is it that I should be eating.
Right.
Because if you would have asked me, I would have told you that I ate healthy before I made the transition. I genuinely thought that I did.
Yeah.
But once I learned what I've learned, I realized I didn't. And just within 6 weeks to take my inflammation and my pain from a level 10, and I know a lot of people say 10, or on a scale of 1 to 10, it was a 15. And that sounds crazy, but it genuinely was. I was in so much pain. And to take it from a level 10 down to being non-existent and having it never come back over the years, that's amazing.
Right.
And that is a testament to the healing powers of nutrition and the mind.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. And you mentioned you do hypnotherapy, and we were talking a little bit before the
Yeah.
show. I used to be a smoker.
Yeah.
And I had tried, so many different things to quit, to stop. And it was such a long habit. I started at a young age. it was so hard to overcome. And I had tried everything, even like, you know, the antidepressants that they put you on, and I felt like I was losing my mind. And I don't like anything that alters my mind.
Right.
So I don't like to take things that like make me not feel like me.
Yes.
And that was just like, I can't live in this whatever head world those pills were putting me in. So my doctor suggested hypnotherapy, and I was like, oh, that sounds so silly, but
They're like, am I going to be quacking like a duck? Like, what's going to happen?
and what happens when I wake up from it? Like, this is going to work?
There's so many misconceptions.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't know, but I was at a point where it was like, I've tried everything. Like, at this point, what do I have to lose? You know, and I went in, I did this session. So I didn't know you, so I went to somebody else. But I went in, I did this session, and I did, you know, I did the thing. They did this like gross out thing where it was like, you know, you pick up a cigarette, it's like a straw to a porta potty. It was like disgusting.
Yeah.
So
very effective.
Very effective. Yeah. Yeah. Like every time I see somebody smoking now, I'm like, no, thank you. But it was so weird. It's like I walked out, I felt the same.
Yeah.
I didn't like feel like a new person or anything like that. And I was just like, and it was just weird how like, just, there was no desire anymore. It just went away. There are triggers. There's times that like, you know, I'll go to certain things, the habits, you know, and I'll remember, I guess, that I smoked, or that, you know, like that, whatever triggered smoking, but it's gone. It's like the desire's gone. It's so weird how it actually works.
Yeah, it you know, changing your environment and changing your identity. Because a lot of people will say, oh, I quit smoking. If you say that I quit smoking, it's so much easier to pick the habit up again. If you say I'm a non-smoker, you no longer identify as a smoker or having smoked in the past.
Right.
So the key is changing that identity and then giving you the tools that you need to stay steadfast after the fact.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Most definitely. Because it is, that's, you know, you can always stop a habit, but that doesn't mean you're never going to start it again.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've been like listening to books and doing all kinds of stuff just to assure that like it's solidified, I guess. But it's you never want to fall back in that trap.
No.
So, and it's, you know, making that transition into a healthy lifestyle.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And, you know, it started off that my clients were suffering some kind of a health issue, and it morphed into so much more. It's people who are held in bondage by the traumas and the hurts in their past, that it's just affecting every area of their life, personally, professionally, mentally, and emotionally. There are things that we don't even remember that happened. Mm-hmm. So if we don't even remember that they happened, how can we address them? How can we fix them on our own?
Yeah, something as easy or as big as like when you were a child, you know, that you just took through your whole life. We talk about that a lot in like life coaching, and I have a real estate coach that comes on the show a lot, you know, and talks about that. And it's crazy, and it overflows into your adult life and becomes who you identify as.
It does, and there's nothing more rewarding than to see people released from that bondage, releasing the negative emotions and all of the limiting decisions and the limiting beliefs that they've held for so long. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can actually see a physical change. I had a client that walked in and he walked so heavy, like you could hear him. It's funny because you could hear him walking, and it wasn't just his footsteps. You could hear the heaviness in his soul.
Yeah.
And when he was done with the breakthrough with me, he just looked like a completely different person. You couldn't hear him walk anymore. He was so light. And I asked him, you know, how do you feel? He's like, this is crazy because for the first time and as long as I can remember, my mind is quiet. And he was nearly in tears. Like, he suffered from racing thoughts for so long that gave him so much anxiety, and in turn caused so much conflict with his family and his relationships and his friends because he was just always on edge. Mm-hmm. And it was gone. In one session, it was gone.
In one session?
In one session, it was gone.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Yeah, no, and it is. I know exactly what you're talking about because I see people like that too. And I mean, I struggle with my own issues, right? But I see people like that too, where like you see them, and there's sometimes you can look at somebody and just know that they're struggling so much, just, you know, mentally or, you know, with their health, their life. And so many people, you could tell them that, or you could tell them that, you know, it's what's going on with them is in their head, and they're not.
And I used to want to help
understand
people. Like
that.
I've always wanted to help people. I've always been a coach. You know, I've always been there for people. And before I had this knowledge, you can only help people based on what they either know or they're willing to admit. Mm-hmm. And what I learned is that people don't know what that root cause is. Every session that I've done, the clients come in, you ask them, you know, they'll tell you, oh, it's definitely this, unequivocally, it's this. And by the end of the session, it was not that. It is never what you think it is.
That's amazing.
What you think it is a symptom from what it actually is.
Wow. Yeah. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So you can read all the self-help books that you want, and you can study mindset and do all the things that you think you know, oh, I'm going to create these new habits, and I'm going to change my environment, and I'm going to deal with my issues. But if you don't know what that root cause is, you'll never be able to fix yourself.
How do you fix a problem if you're not addressing the problem?
Yeah. I thought I knew what my issue was. When I went, I was completely surprised and completely freed.
Wow. Yeah. That's amazing. You have something called Incremental University.
Yes.
What is this?
I'm very excited. I'm launching Incremental University, and what that is it's an online and in-person learning platform that will teach people the incremental, small steps that they need to take to realize their goals and their dreams. I think a lot of people, they have the desire to make a complete change or learn a skill or whatever. They might not have the time to commit to a complete college, you know, program or the money. But if I can help them learn these small incremental steps along the way that have huge consequences and you know, changes in their life, then I think that it's just going to be life-changing for people. And my first line of videos series is going to be nighttime inductions and meditations, so that they can listen to these throughout the night and have those positive suggestions going into their unconscious mind and wake them up to wonderful positive suggestions, so that they start off their day on a good foot.
Right.
You know, not an alarm that's blaring and waking them up, where they're like, man, I wish I could get more sleep, but waking up feeling rested and refreshed and renewed and happy and excited to face the day.
And that can change your entire day. It can change the course of events that happens, or even how you handle them throughout the day. That's something I've been trying to work on myself, and I'm definitely interested to hear to know more about this. But I, you know, like when I wake up in the morning, it's like telling myself, I compare it to my dog and my cat. Yeah. Right? So my cat, she's always mad and angry, like with the world, you know. So like every morning, she's a cat. She's a calico. So like when I wake up in the morning, it's first thing she comes in and she's, you know, meowing or whatever, feed me. And she's just always like angry and hissing at the dog and just in a bad mood. And that's just her lifestyle. And my dog, every day is like the best day ever. He wakes up and it's like he's happy. He's just happy-go-lucky. He's running around, jumping. And, you know, I want to live like my dog. Yeah. I want to be that. I want to be that person.
It's so important. Yeah. I mean, people wonder, like, why is everything happening to me? Like, what, like, but just that mindset right there, if you can make just a little shift in that, and you could say, don't ask yourself, why is this happening to me, but how is this happening for me? Mm-hmm. That one shift and that reframe can change your whole day, can change your whole life. Right. Because instead of looking for all of the negative in the world, you start looking at how is this happening for me? Like how is it happening? Like, is it to teach me something? Right. Is it to show me something? What changes do I need to make in my life? And you can look at it as an opportunity and not an attack against you, but as an opportunity. And once you do that reframe, it has huge consequences. It can change your entire mindset and your physical body.
Right. And that can just go into your life, your personal life, your business life, your health.
Everything.
I mean, I can give a testimony right here for you. I mean, when you walked in the door, it was the first time I met you in person because we're friends on social media through mutual friends or whatever. You walked in the door and I was like, wow, she's a happy, like great energy. I just like automatically you have a glow, you have a spirit about you of a happy person. And that's
I am
cute.
happy.
Yeah, and you
There was
a
time when I wasn't.
Yeah, and you can tell like when it's just that energy exudes, and everybody wants that. Like that's the lifestyle that everybody should have. I mean, that's why we're here, right?
It is, and that's what I want to give people. I want to help lead people to that place because you have it inside of you.
Yeah.
I just want to help you unlock that.
Right.
And that's why I'm so excited about Incremental University because I've spent well over $100,000 on my training. And the average person doesn't have that, nor do they have thousands of hours to research what I've researched.
Absolutely.
To then be able to say, okay, there's all this conflicting information out there. How do I process that and then figure out what to actually believe? And how do I change my life? Like, there's a lot of trial and error. I tried so many things that didn't work, but I wouldn't know that if I didn't try them. And by refining them and, continuing on in the time that I've spent, I've been able to create a program that is life-changing. So Incremental University, you might not have $100,000 and you might not have several thousand hours.
Right.
But you can learn a skill that can change your day or your life in 5 or 10 or 15 minutes that would have a profound impact on your life. And imagine if you watched one video per day.
Yeah.
What would your life be like in 1 year?
Yeah, little snippets, and we can all add in little snippets in
on
our
lunch
schedule.
break, on our break at work, there's always the opportunity. You could wake up in the morning and just watch one thing that will change the whole tone of your life.
Right. So is Incremental University available, and is it up and running already?
It's not. We're still putting the final
Working on
touches
it,
on.
yes.
There's a lot that goes into that, but we're very close to launching that. We've got videos that are in the editing process, and that's coming really soon. And it's my baby, so I'm looking forward to that.
I definitely want to be notified when it launches. We will be posting it and talking about it on the show because I think that's something that a lot of people are going to have huge interest in. I'm interested in it, so I definitely want to hear about it. And then, what about your one-on-one sessions? How do those work? Are you comfortable talking the price, or does it vary? How does all of that work?
Well, the pricing is anywhere between $250 per session on up to breakthroughs are $1,000 per hour. So it just depends on what type of session
you're doing
that you need. Now, if you have, if you just need some minor mindset work, some coaching, that's something that we can work on weekly or bi-weekly. Breakthroughs take anywhere between 8 to 10 hours.
Oh, wow.
And we focus on one specific area. So let's say you're like, man, I really am having issues in my marriage or my relationships, and I really need to have a breakthrough in that area. We can focus on that. Or health, maybe career. And what I find is that you come in and you're like, hey, this is my issue, like I said before, and it's really something underneath that has an effect in all different types of areas in your life. So you'll come for a breakthrough on one area, and it actually clears up a lot of other things. Right. Because if you can do a breakthrough on relationships, kind of bleeds over into your professional your professional area as well. It can have an effect on your health. So I find that people that come in for a breakthrough in one area, they don't usually come back. They're just completely delivered.
Wow. Okay. And it's an investment, right? It's an investment into your life because it can change everything else around you.
You're worth it.
Yeah.
I mean, we spend so much money on things that destroy us. I mean, imagine the different courses. People take so many different courses and they never actually put any of the stuff into action. Yes. And we buy all kinds of pills and potions and all of these things just trying to feel better about ourselves. Mm-hmm. And it's something that happened to us that we have no memory of, that if we can let go of that event and all of those negative emotions that surround it, we can be delivered in all areas of our life. And you can't really put a price tag on that.
Absolutely.
Because it's so valuable.
Yeah.
I would have paid 10 times what I paid to be able to have this life that I have now, to have my life.
Right, right. And happiness is, gosh,
Yeah.
that it's priceless. Happiness is priceless.
It
that
is.
that it, you know, that just that small thing alone can make you feel better. It can make your work better. It can make you make more money.
Yeah.
It can make you love everything around you more. Make you more grateful. It's just so much is involved in it.
It is. I mean, I can confidently say that the value of what I provide, when you walk out of your session, you will believe that it was worth 10 times as much as you paid.
Yeah,
Because it's an investment in yourself.
I can definitely, I agree that that would be a true statement. In closing, you know, I did kind of work things a little bit backwards here. I always report these real estate numbers every week on the show, so I'm going to just go into real estate real quick for a minute because some of our listeners tune in for these numbers and they're probably like, hey, how come you never talked about the market? Our single family inventory this week was 2988 single family homes on the market. Price reductions were 547. So in my world, the market's shifting. I know that you also run a painting company, or your husband has a renovation company. So you guys work on homes that are for sale and things like that a lot. And we're not going to talk all about that today, unfortunately. But what are you seeing out there from that end of the world and real estate, not being in the real estate industry? Do you think our market's having a little bit of a shift?
Oh yeah, definitely. Not too long ago, houses were flying off the market. There were multiple offers above list price. People were fighting. They were just having a really hard time. Sellers were like, hey, I'm going to put my house on the market. It's going to be sold before the end of the day. Now we have people who have their houses on the market for weeks, months, and it's definitely slowed down.
Things are changing. When inventory goes up, things go down. I don't think a crash. Oh my goodness, in the lower price points, like those entry level price points, nothing's changed.
No. Yeah, we work on a lot of higher end homes, so those houses take a little bit longer lately to sell.
When things slow down, it always starts at the higher end, and the entry level homes are still that market's still very crazy. I've been shopping with a couple people there, and it's pretty demanding. And they're like, "Hey, I thought things were slowing down," and I'm like, not here, not here, not here. Just the prices, once they get up a little bit, typically over about 500, 550, that's where we're starting to see the slowdown, and then the higher kind of the slower.
And that's we do work on some lower end entry level homes, but a lot of our homes are the higher end homes.
Yeah, absolutely. How do people get a hold of you? Because you've been talking about a lot of great stuff, and I'm sure there's going to be people that want to contact you and talk more about what services you offer and how to get started and how you can help them change their life. How do people reach you?
Well, your next step is to either contact me by text or on the phone, or you could reach out to me through email. I would love if you found me on social media and you sent me a message. We can continue the conversation there. I'm on social media under Christin G Gutierrez.
Social media is in
Facebook,
Facebook, everywhere. Are you on TikTok?
I'm not on TikTok yet. Yeah, I do have plans for that though. I have some really good ideas.
I know. That's what I've been having people try to get me to get on TikTok, and I'm like, it's just sucking my brain. I'm scared of it, but I'm gonna see what I can do there. It just I just can't watch the videos. Maybe I'll make them and not watch them. I don't know. But yes, okay, great. So Instagram, Facebook, and you had your phone number there. We will have it posted. And if you guys if you go back to the show or you missed her number, you can always reach out to me. I always have contact information for every guest that we've ever had on the show. So I'd be happy to help you with that or get in touch with Christin. And you guys know how to reach me. You can message me directly on the links or any portals that you're watching on. And my phone number is 702-308-2878. Thank you guys for tuning in to Realty Check Las Vegas. And we look forward to seeing you guys again next week, tuning into the show. And thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
It was a pleasure. Thank you. Have a great week, guys.